Most parents are wary of the so-called heavy metal music.
METALXS vous fait vivre ces rencontres les plus marquantes du Hellfest 2022. METALXS, c'est l'essentiel de l'actualité métal et dérivé en quelques minutes en exclusivité sur Refix by Crédit Mutuel, la plateforme de toutes les musiques, tous les talents, en partenariat avec Artforce. C'est parti! Five Finger Death Punch participait pour la troisième fois cette année au Hellfest, un festival qui a énormément compté dans son ascension en France. À chaque édition, le groupe progresse dans l'affiche et c'est devant un public monstre qu'il s'y est produit en juin dernier. Souvenez-vous, Five Finger Death Punch figurait parmi les tout derniers groupes à tourner en Europe juste avant la première vague Covid en février 2020. Et nous avions alors quitté une formation qui, après avoir changé de batteur, était en train de vivre les derniers moments un peu tumultueux avec son guitariste Jason Hook, remplacé depuis par Andy James. C'est donc sous une nouvelle configuration que l'album AfterLife, son 9e en studio, sort ce 19 août. METALXS a rencontré son fondateur, Zoltan Bathory, quelques minutes avant de monter sur scène. Dans sa loge, il nous raconte tout d'abord ce que ce festival représente à ses yeux.
You know, Hellfest in France, it's, the first couple we did to the Hellfest before, and that was the first time that we were exposed to a lot of people in France. Because, we played a couple of shows, but they were not giant venues. And we noticed immediately there was a massive uptick in traffic from France. So definitely, you guys heard us, because we definitely noticed it. And then all these French fan clubs started to develop, which is kind of crazy. We were playing the show in Argentina and Brazil, and we are kind of like the modern Grateful Dead because the fans are following us. And I see the French flags, I see the German flags, the British flags. So these fan clubs are there. And now we have a couple of French ones, and they following it. It's pretty cool. So this is the third time, so hopefully we're gonna steal more, more fans from.
Zoltan ressent-il une différence entre jouer en tête d'affiche et se produire dans un festival comme le Hellfest?
Yes, there is definitely a difference, because when we play for our own crowd, I know that these are legions, these are people, you know what I mean, and it's a little bit more relaxed in some way. I know that they know every word, and they there are certain songs we have to play, we cannot not play because. It's our family. So there is a vibe to that. Like you come home, whatever town we are going to, this is our home. These are our people in this town. When you go to a festival, this is not split. There are people who never heard of you. There are people who probably wouldn't come to see you. There are people who don't even like you. There are people who go farther that really don't like you, right? But they're all there. So now you have to consider that in a way that what's your set list, what kind of festival this is, what kind of other bands on a festival. If you were playing a festival that are which happened before, you were playing with bands that are more like pop or electronic, then we're gonna lighten the set a little bit. We're not gonna put in the super heavy stuff. If we were playing a super heavy festival with extreme metal bands, then we're gonna do those songs because I know that the audience is more tuned to that. So definitely affect that. And from our perspective, it's always an opportunity to steal more fans, to prove it to other people who never heard you, like, well, check this out, here we go. There's a little bit of that. We like to punctuate that, like, here you go, like, just put it, boom, this is what we do.
Être Une fois en backstage, c'est le fantasme de tout fan. Mais pour un musicien, comment Zoltan définirait-il cet endroit si particulier?
I know that we were rolling in here and the Offsprings were on stage. And our singer is a massive Offspring fan. So I don't think the car stopped yet. I think it was still rolling. And he was already out of the car running to the stage because he loves that band, right? So he just opened the van and took off. I think it was a roll and talk, you know what I mean? He just jumped right out and ran away. There is always that, you know, there's a lot of peers, friends that we haven't seen for a long time. And actually that's one of the coolest stuff about festivals, that, you know, we are all busy. We are all on our personal tours and whatnot, and then when you come together to these festivals, then you got to see people that, you know, I haven't seen for sometimes for years. And, you know, they're friends or we toured with them before. So it's a little bit of a, you know, a class reunion in some way.
Five Finger Death Punch est un groupe acharné de la route qui a fait sa réputation en live. S'il devait retenir une anecdote particulièrement marquante d'un concert, laquelle lui viendrait immédiatement à l'esprit?
Man, we have so many. I think we should make a movie out of it, but we have the craziest stuff happened in the last, you know. But there was some really funny ones that I could barely finish playing the show. There was this one event where we have this habit of, especially back in the days, our set was really heavy. And for whatever reason, our fan base was, you know, most of them were military. So our mosh pit is not exactly the same mosh pit that you generally see. This was a mosh pit like a meat grinder. You don't want to get in there, right? And so we realized that, like, man, these are big guys and there are a lot of kids in the same time. So we had this habit of, you know what, let's just pull the kids out of the crowd because this is dangerous. I mean, or mosh pits were just, whew. And so that sort of, it really started with safety. It was about safety for the kids and girls, like girls, you need to, certain songs we already knew that it's gonna happen. So we had girls, probably get out of the pit now because it's gonna get ugly, and the kids, just let's get them out of the crowd. And we usually put them on the side stage. But we realized that it was such an experience for the kids. I mean, imagine we were kids and you got to be on stage with Metallica, you would lose your shit, right? Or Iron Maiden or any of those bands. So we realized how big of an impact this had, so it became a thing where we would put all the kids on stage. And they got to headbang with us. So we would get the kids, they would all on stage from the crowd, and we would all play and they would jump around with us. So, you know, and I meet kids that did this, you know, 10, 14, we are around for 15 years. So 10, 12 years ago. And they're like, man, I was on stage, you know, when I was 10. I just finished college. I'm like, holy shit. But they will never forget this, you know? And so this was a big thing. And then also we realized that we also have to get the parents. Because once we were done with the song, we were like, okay, we give the kids back into the audience, but we had to find the parents. So now this would be a long break in the set, and it's like, okay, it's just 10 minutes now, you know, we're gonna move and play the next song. So we realized, let's get the parents too. So kids on stage, parents on side stage. So this was our trick. And the crew knows exactly what to do. We finish the song, parents grab the kids, they go back to the stage, to the crowd. One day, I remember our security guy at the time was this giant, huge, 0% body fat, 300 pounds, you know, tattooed from the top of his head to the toe, just huge. And he was a boxer, and his knees were bad, so he even walks like Frankenstein, right? This giant dude walks out on stage, and there's this little girl there with a green jacket on her and like a pigtails, right? And do I have to watch my language when I talk on it? Okay. So this giant guy grabs this little girl, lifts her up, and this little girl like is dangling now in the sky, right? And starts screaming, "Who the fuck left this baby on stage?" Well, the kid is right? What kind of and his expletives all the way. What kind of fucking moron leaves this tiny kid on stage? Where are the parents? And I'm going out, and the drummer, everybody's looking at what's going on because we hear the screaming. So we're coming out on stage. What's going on? Why is he screaming? Right? And the kid is just dangling there, right? And he keeps screaming like, where are the parents? Somebody come get your fucking kid. And, you know, thinking, well, it's a kid and you speak that way. But the whole thing was like the vision of this giant dude and this little girl, you know, dangling. So we come in closer, what's going on? And I was sending this little girl with us deep voice that I have goes, put me down, asshole, I'm a midget. And at this moment, my security guy screamed like a little girl, oh my God, and drops this little girl. She just splats right on stage. Dude, we could not finish the set. I mean, I couldn't play guitar. I would look at the drummer and he was just laughing. I don't even know what song I was playing. That's probably the funniest story. I mean, we were rolling around laughing and we had, I think, 2 more songs in the set and we could barely play. That was probably the worst 2 songs we ever played because we could be, like the drummer would hit, you know, like try to hit the cymbal, laughing so hard he would miss it. I mean, that was, and we have a ton of these kind of thing happens.
Depuis sa dernière tournée européenne début 2020, Five Finger Death Punch compte sur une nouvelle recrue, le guitariste Andy James. De quelle manière a-t-il apporté du son neuf au groupe au moment de créer AfterLife?
Well, you know, it's obviously like every relationship, you know, when there was those times when you're trying to work out things and if it doesn't, you know, sometimes you just have to move on. And this was one of those things where we moved on. Him and I has the same birthday, weirdly, and in any band, like there's, you know, like you have one drummer, like hold on, there's one. All right, you have one drummer, one bass guitarist, one of everything, but 2 guitarists. Those guys gotta get along, you know, and so first and foremost, we kind of knew each other before, and you know, and we really got along. And once he was in America with us when the pandemic hit. So literally I lived with him for 2 years. So we were together every day, watched every movie that was ever made. So that's all we could do, just watch movies, played guitar and, you know, and talked about everything, life, everything, you know. And so we got really close because we became really good friends. And so when by the time we went to the studio to do this record, we were, you know, as I said, together for all this time. And that obviously shows, you know, there's that dynamic between the 2 of us. Another thing is that he's a musician, meaning there's an Andy James, the guitar virtuoso, who everybody knew that he's an incredible talent. But when he came to this band, he was intelligent enough to know that now you're a part of this band. This is no longer just about the guitar. What you do here serves the song, serves the band. And, you know, and sometimes it was like, hey, he would say, like, I don't think that song needs a solo. So coming from the guy who, you know, have 7, 8 solo records, that's what he does. And that is important. That is very important. That somebody can understand, like, okay, this is an ecology here where everybody has to coexist, and you know, and what matters is that you serve the song. Ultimately, that's what everybody hears. The final song that we put out there, and you have to fit in there perfectly, and he did. And so this gave kind of a new energy, a new vibe, but the whole band, you know, had an overall vibe of when we went to the studio, everybody was very close to each other, happy, and there's this new energy, let's just go and let's just do this, you know. Ivan is sober now for years and years and years, so, you know, that was a big change for him as well. And yeah, and it's I feel like it's a sound like Five Finger Death Punch, but it's a very different record, you know.
En quoi la pandémie a eu un impact sur ce disque et sur le groupe?
You know, I think it's not just the band. I think definitely had an effect on the band because, you know, this is the first time where, you know, we've been on the road 200 days a year for years and years and years, and all of a sudden this all stopped, right? Personally, for me, it was really bizarre in a way that I'm kind of a workaholic. So, you know, and the first week I'm sitting in a pool and I'm like feeling kind of guilty, like I should be working or something, you know, this is bizarre. And then I start to realize, like, well, nobody else can do anything either, so it's kind of okay, just sit in a pool. But, you know, this whole event, the pandemic, if you look at it, this is the first event in our recorded history that was global. It affected everyone. World War II was regional. Even World War II did not, affect every territory. South America, Australia got to skip it, right? So, You know, so this was the first event in our, you know, recorded history, I guess, that was just simply global. It hit everyone, and I think it changed. It's a precursor for a paradigm shift, in my opinion, what's going to happen after this. And it changed how people view the world, in my opinion. Because just think about it, like all of a sudden you're, you know, other than first responders, nurses, and a small part of society had to go to work, you know. The world depended on them, but the majority of the world did not, right? And all of a sudden people start to realize, like, you know what, I'm going to work to make money so I can buy gas to the car that takes me to work, and I pay for the car. I go to work so I can get the money to pay for the car that takes me to work. And I also bought this house where I go to sleep so I can be fresh tomorrow morning so I can go to work and I can make money to afford this house. And people were like, you know what? That's bullshit. This is a hamster wheel. We're chasing something. We're just running. And you know, various cultures obviously relate to this differently, different countries, but you know, but there is a general idea of everybody's just, you know, just shoveling and digging and that stuff. And I think all of a sudden people start to re-evaluate of what's important. Is this life? Is this what it's meant to be as living creatures on this planet, sit in a cubicle and you know, input data in a computer or whatever it is you do, you know? And I think that changed people, massively changed people. And I think this has a paradigm shift both intellectually and spiritually, right? And so I think the world, because of this, massively changing, and us as artists, it changes the audience. It changes who I'm talking to. Meaning, you know, like this record is a very spiritual record. It's not like we all of a sudden found spirituality. No, it was, you have to read the room. The conversations talking about life and death, and the past that Ivan and I both had, you know, near-death experiences, you know, those things you don't necessarily talk about because, not that it's taboo, but it's, the global audiences might not be ready for those ideas, you know? And I think that's what shifted. And it changes out of a sudden the conversation. If you look at the 50s, it was super strict, right? Elvis Presley couldn't dance on TV. Comes the 60s, out the window. Sexual, spiritual revolution, psychedelics, LSD, mushrooms, everything goes, right? What a paradigm shift. Now, almost every decade sort of shifted. You know, our genre sort of came in the 80s, right? That was the voice of the rebellion. That was the rejection of corporate structures and certain stiff morality that the rock music and heavy metal was rejecting. That's what that, right? But if you look at the last 2-3 decades, there wasn't a shift really. Something changed, but not really. This now. I think this now is the precursor of something massively going to change. Massively. And I think as a band, for us, it was definitely part of the creation of, like, we can talk about this now. I think people are ready to hear certain things.
En attendant de revoir Five Finger Death Punch en live, partez à la découverte de AfterLife, son nouvel album studio. Le Hellfest s'est ouvert à un grand nombre de musiques électriques et pas uniquement de métal extrême, ce qui a donné au fil du temps l'opportunité à des groupes de classique rock, de rock sudiste, alternatif et même de blues rock de s'y produire. Rival Sons fait partie de ces musiciens qui se sont retrouvés lors de leur premier passage en 2012 face à un public très différent de celui auquel ils étaient habitués. Nous en avons parlé avec eux et leur approche était pour le moins originale.
Plan actually was to do the old reversey. We came to the festival for the first time and saw everybody in face makeup and black cloaks, and we thought, why are they booking Rival Sons at Hellfest? We don't get it. So we said, let's play it mostly ballads. Let's play like light songs, because I have a feeling all of these heavy metal people are very sensitive and they're gonna feel it. And it ended up totally working out for us.
Yeah.
C'était leur troisième passage en juin dernier. Maintenant que ce sont des habitués, c'est quoi leur définition de l'expérience Hellfest ?
I think that so many different types of groups and so much heavy music and even mainstream music can be together, and the audience is so welcoming to all of it, especially with a name like Hellfest, especially when it seems like it's filled up with a bunch of like super heavy metal fans. I think it's just a really audience that embraces everything that's happening. There's never big fights at Hellfest. I think it's just a real togetherness. Amazingly very warm, no pun intended, great feeling with the crowd and the bands. This has become like one of the most important festivals there is, period. And it's amazing how it's turning out today. It's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, from 10 years ago, the layout, everything, backstage, to the fences, just everything is laid out so clean and nice. So for the artists, this is one of the best festivals on planet Earth right now. The way they're running things is great. It's beautiful.
Voilà, METALXS, c'est terminé pour aujourd'hui. Rendez-vous la semaine prochaine pour un nouvel épisode de notre grande rétrospective Hellfest 2022. Le tout en images et en interviews exclusives. Très bel été à tous et n'oubliez pas de prolonger l'expérience sur riffx.fr. Salut!